Vacate immediately. That's what the notice said, taped to our door like a slap in the face. Big block letters screaming at us to pack up and disappear. It wasn't the first time we'd gotten one, but this felt final. The red ink, the signature at the bottom, Grant Tisdale, HOA president, told me everything I needed to know. I didn't even bother reading the rest. The moment I saw his name, I knew exactly what this was: personal. "You've had months to comply," Grant said, standing on our porch with that smug little smirk he wears when he thinks he's already won. "We've been generous, but Melissa's continued noncompliance leaves us no choice." He tried to make it sound official, but you could hear the glee leaking through. I didn't blink. "Melissa owns this house." He shrugged, all mock sympathy. "And she's bound by HOA rules. You're not even listed. As far as the board's concerned, you're just a long-term guest. That's a violation." He wanted to see me flinch, but I just let the silence hang. "You're standing 2 feet into Ridgemont Township," I finally said. "And I'm the guy who designed those overlay maps you never bothered to check." His smirk slipped, just a hair. That was for me. But the rest of the show was for everyone else. Neighbors peeking through blinds, folks lined up on the sidewalk. And let me tell you, if you've ever seen an HOA weaponize a rulebook, you know this wasn't going to stop with a notice on the door. "My name's Marcus Bell," I said, loud enough for the whole block to hear. "I'm a civil engineer. I've worked on zoning systems for 17 years. This house, my wife inherited it from her father. She grew up here. We got married under that oak tree you tried to cut down. The marker in the yard, that cast iron stake, wasn't just for show. It marked the real boundary. Oakwood ends, Ridgemont begins. The HOA's power ends there, too." But Grant didn't care about lines. He cared about leverage. When Melissa's father died, Grant's son Ethan made a cash offer for the house, just days after the funeral. We said no. It wasn't some empty property. It was her family's legacy, her father's handprints on the brickwork. That's when the letters started rolling in. Unauthorized vehicle, untrimmed hedges, non-member occupancy, each one with Grant's signature and a slightly higher fine. It wasn't about the rules. It was about pressure, about making us the next story people whispered about at the clubhouse. We're the last house on the block that still looks like someone actually lived here before vinyl and stucco took over. Old bricks, faded blue shutters, a porch swing that groans every time you sit on it. And that marker, rusted, solid, older than anyone on the board, just stands there, defiant. I remember when we moved in, Melissa touched it and whispered, "He left this for me." And when Grant tried to stare me down again that day, I just told him, "You can't evict us." "You're not protected," he snapped back. "I'm not governed," I said. For a second, the crowd didn't know who to look at. Amy Rohr, one of the board members, stood with her arms crossed, jaw tight. She didn't say a word, but she didn't look happy to be there. When Grant finally muttered something about hearing from our legal team and stomped off, I just told him, "I look forward to it." Melissa stepped outside, her fingers trembling over that notice. She didn't cry, not in front of them. She just stared at the marker, then handed me the folded notice like it was a piece of trash. I slipped it into my pocket. It wouldn't be the last one. That night, neither of us slept. By morning, the violation was posted on the HOA app, $1, 200 due in 72 hours. Final notice issued. I pulled up the board's digital archive. Just vague references, no details, just resident disturbance and ongoing noncompliance. Grant's decisions, rubber-stamped. In the neighborhood group chat, the real talk was happening. Another family targeted. Maybe if she paid the fines, they'd leave her alone. There's always this undercurrent, like we're the ones bringing disease to the neighborhood. "They always talk like this," Melissa said, staring at her phone. "Like we're dirty." I just shook my head. All they're preserving is control. Driving through the subdivision, every house looked the same. Manufactured beauty, beige and gray, vinyl and stone. Except ours. The marker out front was a line they pretended not to see. But the line was real. Later, I watched from my car as Grant strutted into the clubhouse. A few more board members trickled in, Amy among them, looking even more tense. I knew the building well, from city plans I'd worked on. There's an unsealed vent behind the kitchen wall. Nothing fancy, but enough to catch voices if you stood close. I watched, saw the finger pointing, the gestures. Back at home, Melissa texted, "They just blocked our gate code." The HOA controlled all the access. Melissa was in the system. I never was. They weren't going to throw us out with force. They were going to use paper cuts. Bureaucracy, fines, locked gates, public shame. This was never about some violation. It was about making sure no one like us, no one who questions, who pushes back, could stay. Thursday night was the next board meeting. This time I wasn't outside. I sat quietly in the back, arms crossed. Melissa got the new notice in person this time. Failure to remove unauthorized occupant within 10 days will result in a formal lien. Not my name. Just unauthorized occupant. They thought erasing a name erased a person. Grant started the meeting with his usual charm. Routine maintenance of community standards, he called it. Amy didn't look at him or at me. When Melissa's name came up, Amy's lips parted, just for a second, but she said nothing. We have 3 compliance escalations, Grant droned. 1 unresolved occupancy issue. That's when I stood up. Are you claiming our house falls within HOA jurisdiction? The room froze. Grant stammered, then gave the party line. As outlined in the charter, all homes within the gates are subject to compliance regulations. Then you've read the annexation maps. I pressed. Silence. Block 217A, our block, was never included in the final overlay. 26 years ago, Ridgemont and Oakwood split, but our parcel was left out. Amy looked up, her fingers trembling. Grant said nothing. Afterwards, I waited for Amy. You know he's wrong, I said. She whispered, I don't want to be involved. You already are. She hesitated, then said, they won't believe you. They don't have to. The zoning commission will. She finally met my eyes. He's pushing this too far. At first it was about image. Now it's personal. He thinks if he pressures Melissa enough, she'll sell. I just nodded. As she left, she handed me a folder. I keep minutes. Real ones, not the ones Grant posts. They're not in the system. And she was gone. When I got home, Melissa sat on the porch swing, knees hugged tight, staring at the marker. They voted again? She asked. Yeah, and they think they're going to break you. She smiled, tired but fierce. They'll get splinters. Days passed, and things just got weirder. Our trash bins disappeared, not moved, just gone. Melissa spent half an hour looking before saying a word. The HOA fined us for improper waste bin storage, for bins they took. Gate code failed again. Melissa was locked out until a neighbor let her in. Across the street, Harold, who'd never taken a side, gave a half-hearted wave, eyes flickering. He was waiting to see who'd win. I knew what I had to do. The next day, I drove to the county planning office with every overlay map, every document I'd saved, proving our parcel was never in the HOA's domain. The clerk looked skeptical, but a supervisor named Daniel spent 2 hours combing through filings. Your property isn't under their jurisdiction, he finally said. File a boundary clarification request. If this holds, the HOA has no authority here. Melissa was relieved, but wary. They won't stop just because we're right. No, I agreed. But now they're not just fighting us, they're fighting the county. I spent that week assembling everything into a binder. Amy's minutes, the zoning maps, discrepancies in the HOA's amended charter. Melissa watched me build the case, her faith quiet but steady. The cracks in the HOA started to show. Amy began quietly forwarding real board minutes, showing Grant knew about the jurisdiction gap, but pressed on anyway. I printed 5 letters and dropped them at the homes on our block, explaining the situation and giving them the county's case number. If you want to know whether the HOA actually governs your house, here's the proof. Harold was the first to invite me over. You're not bluffing, he said, flipping through the maps. No good. I'd like to see the look on Grant's face when he finds out I was never his to find. Word spread. 3 out of 5 said, if this is true, we want him out. By Friday, the board called a special meeting to vote on a lien against us. I walked in early, binder in hand. Amy was there, nerves visible. Grant opened with the usual threat. We're moving forward with a lien for noncompliance. I passed a packet to each board member. This isn't a defense, I said. It's a correction. Amy spoke up. For the record, we were warned. The room sagged. Grant tried to dismiss us. We've reviewed boundaries before, nothing substantial. But I had already submitted my boundary clarification. The county was reviewing everything. Any action you take now triggers exposure liability, I told them. Amy backed me up. She had preserved every record, every timestamp. Grant snapped at Amy. You were on this board. I still am, she shot back, and I won't be part of a fraud. No one came to his rescue. I set the binder down in front of him. The county inspector arrives in 4 days. Any fines or votes now will be submitted with a complaint. He didn't look at it. The next morning, the violations disappeared from the HOA portal, wiped clean. Not an apology, just panic. Melissa crossed her arms. They think deleting evidence makes them clean. But we'd saved everything. Monday, the county inspector arrived. Frank Holman, clipboard and badge, all business. We walked the line, stopped at the marker. This one's been here since 1948, he said, kneeling to check the rust. You're outside their authority. No question. That was it. Not a victory parade, just a fact. The neighbors rallied. 2 homeowners filed for removal from the HOA. One threatened legal action. Another demanded reimbursement for years of unauthorized patrols. Melissa asked, "You ready for Friday? Public meeting. Community-wide." "I am," I said. Amy called that night, voice steadier. "They're drafting a statement, but Grant's still planning to defend it as an oversight. I'll speak on record if you present." "Thank you," I managed. "Not for you. For Melissa. She deserves to stay in her home without being hunted." Friday, the meeting room filled with nervous faces. Grant tried to spin the inspector's report as uncertified. Amy cut him off. "You told us presence inside the gates was enough. You ignored objections. I have the minutes, the votes, the timestamps." People started whispering. "Are our fines real? Do we get reimbursed? Can we vote him out?" The room turned on Grant. Harold stood up. "You had all the time in the world to be honest, and you used it to threaten people." Amy called for a vote of no confidence. Seconded. Passed. Grant walked out, folder in hand. A man who realized too late the armor wasn't real. The rain started before dawn. The next day was the public review, open forum with the county and township. Holman laid it all out. Maps, overlays, years of unchecked power. This marker is a legal boundary. These 6 properties are not under HOA governance. Amy suspended all fines, announced refunds. Neighbors demanded answers. Why did it take Marcus Bell doing all the work for this to come out? Holman was blunt. Because no one asked the right questions until now. I just said, I did it because I saw someone trying to erase the line between influence and law. That line matters. By the end of the month, the HOA board was restructured. Grant resigned. No speech, just vanished. Amy was voted interim president. She hand-delivered a check to Melissa. Full refund, no excuses. Our block was officially out. Charter rewritten with oversight. Our house didn't change. The old swing creaked. The marker stood firm, tulips blooming at its base, a quiet, stubborn kind of victory. One day Harold brought over a black and white photo of 2 men standing by the marker, his grandfather and Melissa's. "Didn't know I had it," he said. "We framed it, hung it above the table where I'd built my binder." History has weight. Sometimes it pushes back. Now, the neighbors who once watched in silence nod a little longer. Not everyone's happy, not everyone forgives, but nobody forgets. They remember the time someone said, "Vacate immediately," and someone else refused. They remember the man with no vote, no seat, no voice, who outmaneuvered the whole board by drawing one real line and standing on it. If you've got a story about fighting back, share it in the comments, and let me know where you're watching from. Justice, sometimes, just needs someone willing to stand their ground.